The riding contained herein was performed by professional athletes under controlled conditions. The producer of this film accepts no liability in conjunction with the performance and/or content contained herein. Flowboard at your own risk. In other words, don't be a sissy and blame me if you get hurt. Just like you shouldn't blame the NBA when you sprain your pinky trying to slam dunk. Federal law provides severe civil and criminal penalties for unauthorized reproduction, distribution, or exhibition of copyrighted motion picture, videotapes, or video disc. Criminal copyright infringement is investigated by the FBI, like they're going to do that for a flowboarding DVD, and may constitute a felony with a maximum penalty of up to 5 years in prison and or up to $250,000 in fines. If you copy this, I will definitely not produce any more flowboarding DVDs. Before we get started, we need to clarify some terms. Prone means you are laying on your stomach. Double knee means you have both knees on your board. Drop knee means you have one knee and one foot on your board. Drop knee is commonly referred to as DK. If you have your right knee on your board and your left foot on your board, it's called a regular footed stance. Most people just call it regular or regular footed. If you have your left knee on your board and your right foot on your board, it's called goofy foot or goofy footed. Switch DK means that if you normally have your left knee on the board and your right foot, switch would be the opposite of that, like this, and vice versa. Most people find one way easier than the other, so switch is basically your unnatural way or your unnatural stance. This is a single jet flow rider. Here's a double jet, and here's a triple jet flow rider. This is a retro, and this is a flow barrel. In the DVD, jumping around from prone to DK is unavoidable as tons of the combinations use, well, a combination of them both. I've tried to lay out the DVD in a logical progression. You may find your riding skills develop differently. Don't worry about it. If you find a trick or skill difficult, just continue on with the DVD. As your general skills improve, you'll find the tricks you're having trouble with today will become easier and easier. You can start from the front, like this, or from the side. But the best way to get in is just to walk up to the water and set yourself in from the top while grabbing onto your board. From here, you can just gently carve away. Most people start riding with both of their elbows on their board. This is a great way to learn because it allows you the ability to turn equally well in both directions. This manner of riding is sometimes referred to as driving the bus, because you have a wide grasp on the board like someone driving a bus. Ultimately, you will want to ride with one elbow on your board and one hand on your board. This is how almost everybody rides in the ocean, and it's much more stylish and aesthetically pleasing on the flowrider. If you ride a left-facing barrel, you have your left elbow on the board, and if you ride a right-facing barrel, you'll have your right elbow on the board like this. Prone carving. Turning or carving will be one of the first things you do on a bodyboard. First things first. You want to have both elbows on the board, like this. You don't want to have both hands on the board, like this. Most people start learning to turn by simply applying more weight to one side of the board. This will cause you to travel in the direction you lean. So weight on the right rail makes you travel to the right, and weight on the left rail takes you to the left. But there's actually more to this than just leaning your weight. You want to lift your hips up off the board every time you stop and move them to the opposite side of the board. You can apply much more weight from your hips than you can from just your arms. This is very similar to the unicycle. Spurious correlations aside, when you get to this side of the wave, you lift your hips off the board, put them onto the opposite side of the board. This will not only help you stop, it will give you a great spray, and if you do it correctly, cause you to go in the opposite direction. Crashing is not something you have to practice, it just happens. Once you crash, try to be aware of your position on the wave so you can exit in the safest manner possible. Watching others crash is fun. Enjoy the carnage. The Superman or yo-yo. Don't confuse this trick with the Superman done in stand-up riding, which is actually cool.
No, not that kind of yo-yo.
This is a beginner trick, and you should never do it in competition unless it's the only trick you know. But seriously, all you do is push the board out in front of you, body surf for a few seconds, and wait till the board comes back to you. It helps if you arch your back a little. This will give you less friction on the board. This is a barrel roll. Impressive, isn't it? Now let's see one on the Flow Rider. Oh, not as impressive. But this move is actually going to benefit you with tricks you'll learn later, so it's worth working on. You want to grip your board tightly with both hands, then you will start the roll by leading with your hip. A yo-yo with a barrel roll. You're extreme. Basically arch your back so you barely touch your board, push your board out in front of you, and roll yourself into a water-induced frenzy. Then grab your board again. This will help you win the approval of hotties everywhere. This is a fun beginner move. It's a novelty, but it may help you with board and edging awareness. Basically, you just sit and turn. Double knee is the move most commonly used to pull up your shorts. It's a bit easier than drop knee. Don't put your knees in the middle of the board or you will just catch an edge. Spread out your knees to give you a wide, stable base. Some people lean back and put their hands in the water for further stabilization. Just push your body up onto your knees. Double knee carving is fun, and it's a good go-between between prone and DK. The good thing is that it's much easier than DK. You can do some of these beginner tricks, such as a yo-yo from DK, but let me assure you, I asked these guys to do these tricks for the video. This is not something they do regularly in their practice. These tricks are considered beginner moves. They are sloppy, and they wouldn't get any points in competition. Double knee 360s. I think double knee 360s is the easiest way to do a 360. You will want to slide both of your knees forward so that your feet are not dragging in the water. This will center you and make it easy to spin. From here, you can just use your hands to start your spin. You can even use your hands to stop your spin. When you're facing backwards, you will want to lean forward. In other words, when you're backwards, you lean up the wave. DK carving. Before you can learn to carve and drop knee, you will want to have your knee and foot in the proper position. There's two traditional but very different stances. I don't know that one is better than the other, but some people swear by the one they're using. First is the leg straight back method. This means that you have the leg right behind you. Some people hang their foot off the back of their board and some people don't. It acts almost like a stabilizer for those who use their foot in the water. With the other method, you have your foot across the back of your board. This can give you 2 points of contact on the side of the board that you have your foot up. You will want to have your knee really close to the edge of your board, and you will want to have the heel of your foot on the edge of your board. You don't want it even an inch or two in. Some people point their foot in about 15 degrees. Once you are in the proper position, you will want to start carving. Basically, you will move from one side to the other. Grabbing your rail at the appropriate time will help you with aggressive carving. You will most likely want to use your hands in the water to stabilize yourself. As you gain experience, you will use this less and less. Don't try to rush into DK. You can go from prone to double knee, then use your hands to go into DK. Eventually, you will just press right into DK. There's tons of transitions that lead into DK. Here's a few. We'll deal with the specifics of these later. Carving well and spraying with your bodyboard is not difficult, but it's not as fluid and back and forth as stand-up riding. Most people don't do this with the bodyboard because it's more difficult to keep a solid edge. The easiest way to do this is grab a rail and apply pressure to your foot or to your knee, depending on which edge you're on. You can grab your edge or put your hand in the water and then let go. It's actually difficult to find footage of people carving in DK because they usually throw in 360s. Once you can carve a bit and spray your friends, you'll want to spin like a record round, round, like a record baby, round, round, round. Yes, I just did include 80s music lyrics into a learned bodyboard DVD. DK spins are in my opinion much easier than prone 360s because your legs are not flopping behind you. The easiest way to do this is start from the flats and head up the transition. Once you've almost come to a stop, you will use your hand to initiate the spin. You will want to place a considerable amount of weight onto your knee when you start to spin. You will transfer your weight onto your foot when you're here in the spin. Then you will want to learn to spin the other way. When you spin this way, you will start by putting your weight on your foot. Then once you are halfway through your turn, you will transfer your weight to your knee. A lot of people use their hands to start and stop themselves when they're learning these, but you can just apply weight to your rail and start carving again. You'll want to learn these spinning slowly and spinning quickly. Slow spins teach you poise and control. Once you can carve in DK and do DK 360s, you will want to learn switch. Switch does not mean backwards. If you have your right knee on your board and your left foot on your board, it's called a regular footed stance. Most people just call it regular or regular footed. If you have your left knee on your board and your right foot on your board, it's called goofy foot or goofy footed. Switch DK means that if you normally have your left knee on the board and your right foot, switch would be the opposite of that, like this. Most people find one way easier than the other, so switch is basically your unnatural way or your unnatural stance. DK bomb drops. These are a quick way to enter the wave in DK. Basically, you just walk to the edge and drop into DK. You'll want to be very comfortable with drop knee before you try these. Many beginners find prone 360s challenging. Admittedly, there's a bit of a jump from the skills you've already learned to this one. You'll want to start with an assisted prone 360. To do this, you'll put your hand in the water, then turn in the direction of the hand you use. Once you start to spin, you'll slide yourself forward onto your board so your weight is more centered. You'll bring your feet out of the water by bending your knees like a drunken scorpion. You can start the spin with your legs rather than your hands, but it looks sloppy and teaches you bad habits that you'll eventually need to overcome. Now it's time to do an unassisted 360. You can start a prone 360 anywhere you want, but it looks better on the sides of the transition or even on the sides of the flat. Most people don't do them in the middle of the wave. Slowly ride from one side of the wave towards the opposite side. From here, you will need to decisively stop your momentum. Simultaneously, you will push down with your elbow on your inside rail. That's this one. And you will also apply a considerable amount of pressure onto your board with your hip. Furthermore, you will pull up with your hand at the same time. As soon as you start to travel in the opposite direction, pull or slide yourself onto your board. In other words, you'll be sliding forward as you start to turn backwards. You'll want to lift your legs out of the water, and for maximum style points, you'll cross your legs like this. A lot of people twist their body and rotate onto one hip as they spin. Although a lot of people find this easier than keeping your hips flush with your board, you don't score as high in competition, and if you can prevent it from the get-go, you should, because it's a difficult habit to break. When you do prone spins, your hips should remain flat on your board. Don't panic when you're backwards. Keep your back arched and your knees bent. Once you've completed your rotation, just drop your feet back into the water and stop your spin. If you want to do another 360, all you have to do is pull up on the rail and repeat the process. Remember, it's easier to spin counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. But seriously, 360s are the building blocks of almost every prone trick. Most people spin in what I call a natural way, which means if you spin on this side of the wave, you will spin in this direction. And if you spin on this side of the wave, you will spin in this direction. Some people do it differently. Once you have completed your spin, start to carve. Don't just go down the wave. This demonstrates that you have control and that you're ready for your next move. With a basic redirect in prone or DK, you start the spin, then you use your hand to stop yourself midway through your turn. Once you've stopped your momentum, you start to turn or spin in the opposite direction. Redirects are used in prone and in DK, in about every imaginable manner possible. We'll teach some of these moves later. When you combine a prone 360 and a barrel roll, it's called a hub. It's named hub because the guy who invented them had the last name Hubbard. You'll want to get your prone 360s dialed in before you try these. Basically, do a prone 360 and as soon as you come out of the spin, you do a barrel roll. This looks best if you do it immediately after you do your spin, so it looks like a combo rather than waiting. If you wait, it's like doing two separate tricks. You can also do it in reverse order. First, you do a barrel roll, then you do a prone 360. Once you've dialed it in, you'll want to balance out your tricks by learning it on the other side. This combo is simply a building block for the next trick, which is a hubcap. This is a hubcap. Again, notice the spelling difference. It's not spelled hub, H-U-B, it's spelled hub, H-U-B-B. Again, this was named after ocean writer Jeff Hubbard. This is a bit of a more advanced move. They aren't that difficult. The challenge is it's easy to get thrown out of the back of the wave with this trick. First, get your 360s dialed in so they are effortless. If you don't do this, you are wasting your time trying this trick. Approach the left side of the wave, the rider's right side, and do a prone 360. When you get to this point in the wave, you'll want to lead into your next spin by throwing your hip this way. You will roll your hip away from your board, then you will throw your shoulder down. This is quite subtle. Momentarily, you will spin on your back. From here, you will use both arms and you will put your board back into the water. This is the part of the trick where people get thrown out of the wave. If you put too much edge into the water, the flow rider will just throw you out the back. If you don't put enough edge in, you will not have the momentum for your next 360. At the same time you are putting the board back into the water, with your arms, you will be putting your hips high up onto your board. From here, keep your back arched and continue through your second 360. So, when you do this correctly, you will spin, roll, spin. Notice the direction the board is facing when the rider throws the second 360. Here's a few of these in slow motion so you can see exactly when to throw your second 360. Once you've learned a hubcap on the left side of the wave, you'll want to learn one on the right side of the wave. prone 360 to DK transition. This is a really cool transition from prone into DK. First, you do a prone 360. As soon as your board is facing the nozzle, you'll want to lead into your next spin with your hip, just like you're doing a hubcap. But instead of doing a second prone 360, you do a second 360 in DK. These are awesome, and I think they're a bit easier than a hubcap. They're exactly like a hubcap, except for the fact that you come out of your second spin in drop knee rather than in prone.
It's a quick, stylish way to go from prone to DK. Start a prone 360. Then, 3/4 of the way around, you'll roll onto your back. You will do this by leading with your hip. Grab your board with both hands and rip it out of the water. Now, you will press your knees to your board as you roll on top of it. Many people briefly go out of this move in double knee and then go straight into DK.
Most people don't do ollies on their bodyboard like they do in stand-up. They tend to do them while they're spinning. This is more like a DK bunny hop because you grab your board.
With this move, you'll want to apply pressure downwards on your board with your knee and/or your knee and your foot. Then you jump up while grabbing your board. This will give you pop. Some people just use brute force to grab their board and jump. This will give you less pop. Watch Nick push down before he goes airborne. It's very subtle. Once you've developed a good way of getting pop, you can do it without grabbing.
This is an ollie 360 with a stance change. Nick starts in a regular footed stance, then transitions in midair into a goofy footed stance, while his board and his body are spinning around 360 degrees in midair. shove-its. This is a front side shove-it, and this is a backside shove-it. You'll want to push down on your board before you throw your shove-it. This will give you pop. There are many ways to throw a shove-it. You can use your foot, or your knee, or your foot and your knee.
This is a frontside 360 shove-it, but to complicate matters, he switches stances in the air.
360 shove-its are much more functional than 180 shove-its because your board goes all the way around. In other words, you start and finish this trick in the same position on your board. If you do a 180 shove-it, your board is backwards. With this particular trick, you want to pop harder and throw harder in order for the board to come all the way around. This is a DK big spin. The board only spins 180 degrees and your body rotates a little as well. Your body rotates in the same direction that your board spins.
I have a lot of footage of people doing frontside big spins and very little footage of backside big spins. Eventually, you should learn both ways.
You can spin your board this much, or you can spin it this much. Your body still spins about 180 degrees. In order to make these happen, you'll want to start your momentum like this, pop like this, and shove it like this. Prior to 2010, there was only a handful of riders who did DK rolls. Now, lots of people are doing them. That's a good thing because there's lots of footage for you to look at. Most people learn these by just rolling across the water while grabbing their board with both hands. Eventually, you'll want to catch air when you're doing DK rolls. Most people start this trick by doing a DK 360. If you don't know how to do a DK 360, you have no business trying a DK roll. Then they start their DK roll once the nose of their board faces the nozzle. You need to pop, drop, and roll. Get it? Stop, drop, and roll? Just me? Just me. You need to stop yourself from traveling down the face of the wave. Remember, you're fighting gravity, and gravity is the law. Most people do the stop and the pop in one seamless motion. Then you need to tuck your tail. Tuck your entire body into a ball because you're going for a ride. Try to absorb when you land. In stand-up, you do this with your knees. In drop knee, you do this by absorbing the weight with your hip, back, and stomach muscles. So having core strength is really important.
So let's review. Do a DK 360. Then, when your board is almost facing the nozzle, you will start your DK roll. Grab firmly and don't let go until you are upright in DK again. Most people spin out of this trick, but you don't have to. If you're having problems, remember to grab your board firmly and try to stay aware of where you are on the wave. That's difficult to say.
This trick was invented by multiple-time national champion and super multiple-time world champion Nick Wynn. Here's a huge one. This trick is also called a rodeo flip. So with the rodeo flip or the Wynn flip, you approach the wave like this, and then you grab like this, and then you just chuck it like this. Check out Haley doing this at the World Championships. With these variations, you'll notice that these riders are launching off their knee rather than off their foot. You should try it. These are pretty cool, and there's not many people who do them.
Yep, having stand-up skills can help you bodyboard.
All of these tricks can be comboed together. I'm not going to teach you every possible combo, but everything in bodyboarding is a potential combo. Here's a bunch of awesome ones. Rock on, and thanks for watching.